on this subject. And as you can see, we have Jessika from New Jersey Future, the Funding Navigator program. She'll be going deeper into her credits and background on why she's here, but she does an amazing job when it comes to program coordination and being a knowledgeable source on the state revolving fund. We have Tess joining us from Syracuse University, specifically the Environmental Finance Center. And then we also have Eleni joining us from Suburban Consulting Engineers, who has a plethora of knowledge in the SRF process and can give us a lot of information on permitting and how towns can use it to their benefits. So with that, I'm going to shut up now, and I'm going to pass it off to our first panelist, Jessika.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Lee, for the really nice introduction. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. My name is Jessika Sherman. I'm the Policy and Program Coordinator for New Jersey's Funding Navigator program. Today, I'm going to be talking about one of the most pressing challenges we face in New Jersey, funding our water infrastructure. This issue is crucial because it impacts public health, economic development, and climate resilience. Despite federal and state programs designed to support infrastructure investment, significant barriers prevent municipalities from fully utilizing these resources. Today, I'll discuss these barriers, the importance of smart financing, and how resources like the State Revolving Fund can help communities unlock critical infrastructure investments. Next slide. Thank you. So according to the US EPA, New Jersey alone will need to spend over $30 billion on clean water and drinking water infrastructure over the next 20 years to make all necessary improvements and repairs. Problems such as lead service lines, outdated wastewater treatment plants, and increasing risk from climate change require urgent upgrades. The cost of maintaining and upgrading these systems continues to rise, and many local governments struggle to access the funding they need. The predominant sources of water infrastructure funding and financing for all 50 states is the Clean Water State Revolving Fund and the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. The challenge is ensuring that municipalities can effectively access and use these resources. Next slide. So the State Revolving Fund, or the SRF, is a low-interest loan program that helps local governments finance drinking water, wastewater, and stormwater infrastructure projects. New Jersey's SRF is administered by the Water Bank, which is a partnership between the New Jersey DEP and the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank. The Water Bank provides low-interest loans and, in some cases, principal forgiveness, meaning the part of the loan does not need to be repaid. This program is essential because it allows municipalities to make necessary infrastructure investments without placing an immediate financial burden on ratepayers. Instead of relying on costly emergency repairs, towns can plan long-term improvements at a lower cost. Next slide. So despite its benefits, many municipalities underutilize the SRF due to concerns about taking on debt or difficulties navigating the application process. However, when used correctly, the SRF provides several key advantages. So those advantages include lower borrowing costs. SRF loans have lower interest rates than traditional municipal bonds or private loans, reducing the overall cost of the project. Financial flexibility. The program allows towns to spread costs over time, preventing large one-time expenses that could lead to sudden rate increases. Principal forgiveness. Some communities, particularly disadvantaged communities, can qualify for loan forgiveness, reducing the amount they need to repay. And it supports climate resilience. Modernizing infrastructure makes it more resilient to climate change threats, such as storm surges and flooding. Next slide. So despite the availability of financing programs, several key challenges stand in the way for many municipalities in accessing this funding. So the first one is capacity constraints. Many local governments, particularly smaller municipalities, lack the staff and technical expertise needed to navigate complex funding programs, such as the SRF. Without dedicated personnel to manage grant applications, oversee financial planning, or comply with administrative requirements, these communities often miss out on critical funding. Compounding this issue is regulatory complexity. The process of applying for and managing infrastructure funding can be overwhelming, discouraging municipalities from even attempting to secure resources. Lengthy applications, strict compliance requirements, and administrative burdens create significant obstacles, particularly for communities with limited capacity. Next slide. So recognizing these challenges, New Jersey Future launched the Funding Navigator program, the first New Jersey statewide nonprofit initiative dedicated to helping New Jersey's most underserved communities access water infrastructure funding. This program provides essential support to municipalities and small to mid-sized water systems by guiding them through application process, assisting with community outreach efforts, and offering engineering expertise to strengthen funding proposals. However, even with technical assistance in place, many municipalities remain hesitant to seek funding because of debt aversion. Through our work, we found that even when municipalities recognize their infrastructure needs and are provided with the technical support they need, they are often reluctant to take on debt, fearing financial risk or public opposition. The widespread fear of borrowing prevents many towns from making necessary improvements, even though smart financing strategies can actually save money in the long run. Without access to upfront capital, communities are forced to defer maintenance until emergencies arise, leading to higher costs, sudden rate hikes, and avoidable disruptions. These barriers, limited capacity, complex regulations, and debt aversion, make it significantly harder for communities to maintain and improve their water systems. As a result, many towns remain vulnerable to system failures, contamination risks, and costly last-minute repairs. Next slide. So debt, when managed correctly, does not need to be a financial burden. It can be an investment tool that benefits both communities and individual ratepayers. By using good financial management practices, municipalities can keep infrastructure costs predictable, stabilize rates for residents, and avoid expensive emergency repairs. Next slide. So smart debt management benefits residents who pay water bills or local taxes by preventing sudden drastic rate hikes and promoting long-term affordability. Without financing, municipalities often delay upgrades until a crisis forces costly emergency repairs and immediate increases in rates. In contrast, borrowing spreads costs over time, allowing for gradual, manageable rate changes. Infrastructure investments create jobs and stimulate economic growth, enhance service quality and reliability, and ensure fair cost allocation by having future users contribute to infrastructure funding, avoiding the burden of large one-time expenses on current ratepayers. Next slide. So for local governments and project sponsors, debt can be beneficial in the following ways. Enhance project funding. Loans facilitate the undertaking of large-scale projects by providing access to capital markets with favorable interest rates. Additionally, loans can secure the necessary financial resources without immediate strain on existing funds, allowing for more strategic planning and project implementation over time. Economic development, infrastructure improvements make towns and cities more competitive, and they attract new businesses and residents, strengthening the economy and increasing the local tax base. Enhanced financial management, utilizing debt enables large-scale projects to proceed without exhausting cash reserves. A structured debt payment schedule distributes expenditures over time, ensuring a more predictable cash flow and aligning the debt service with the lifespan of the infrastructure. Leveraging cash and debt. Debt is still beneficial even with sufficient cash reserves. Loans are advantageous when loan interest rates are lower than fund balance or cash reserve interest rates. Cash reserves or fund balances are best used in the event loan disbursements are delayed or don't align with the development schedule. Next slide. So a good case study is the town of Lambertville. Lambertville has demonstrated how strong financial management can make debt an asset rather than a liability. Lambertville has successfully used strategic financing to upgrade its water infrastructure while keeping ratepayer costs under control. Here's how they did it. So they used a long-term infrastructure plan. The Lambertville Municipal Utilities Authority uses a long-term 30-year infrastructure plan to anticipate system needs well in advance, helping to avoid costly emergency repairs. Strategic use of low-interest loans. Rather than relying solely on the municipal budget, LMUA takes advantage of below-market financing from the New Jersey Water Bank through the SRF. And they have a fair and sustainable rate structure. Lambertville has developed a rate structure that enables the utility to manage debt service on its loans without placing sudden financial burden on its ratepayers. Next slide. So the path forward, the reality is that New Jersey's water infrastructure needs New Jersey's water infrastructure needs significant investments, and avoiding debt entirely is not a sustainable option. Debt is not a bad word. It is a tool that, when managed properly, benefits ratepayers, taxpayers, and project sponsors alike. By implementing smart financial practices like leveraging low-interest loans through the state revolving fund, creating financial reserves, and forecasting costs, municipalities can finance essential infrastructure improvements while keeping costs predictable and fair. Ultimately, responsible debt management is about ensuring that future generations inherit safe, reliable water systems without being burdened by financial mismanagement today. It's not about taking on debt, it's about taking on the right debt in a way that benefits everyone. Thank you, everybody. And here's our contact information if you want to reach out, if you have questions, or you need technical assistance.
Hey. Hi, everyone. I hope you all can hear me. I'm now seeing my video spotlighted, so I'm assuming that all is going well technically. So my name is Tess Clark. I'm the Assistant Director of Water Resilience at Syracuse University. And Lee has invited me here today to sort of provide a regional perspective about not only where we're seeing trends in terms of this funding and the theme is debt, but Jessika and Eleni are doing the fun work of convincing you all that that is, in fact, the great tool that it can be. And I'm here to provide more of a regional perspective on another tool in the toolbox, which is technical assistance. Next slide. So Syracuse University Environmental Finance Center serves EPA Region 2, which is New York, New Jersey, and the Caribbean. We enhance the managerial and financial capacity of regional and local governments. We've done this since 1993, and our bread and butter is sort of solving that how to pay issue of environmental protection and improvement. Next slide. And that's what brings me to this slide where I really want to encourage everyone to look backwards. So one thing that we look at from a funding perspective is what is the share of the federal government versus local governments and state governments in terms of who is paying for infrastructure. And not all that long ago, just in 2017, we were really seeing that hit an all-time low of about 4%. And just for comparison's sake, in 1977, almost 30% of an infrastructure project, particularly water, stormwater, and wastewater, was funded 31% by the federal government. So that's just a look back and will help us see where the moment where we are now, how that's shifted. Next slide. So I don't have the federal share in terms of a percent, but what I can say, and I'll echo Jess in this, is that we are seeing infrastructure investment now that we haven't for some time. And I'll call out the $50 billion for water infrastructure that was dedicated as part of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Next slide. However, not to bring the mood down, but these increases in federal funding won't fully cover the needed investment. The image to your right is a study that was done by McKinsey and Company. And to make a long story short, they looked at all of the need and they looked at all the investment, and they estimated that in the 5-year term that there would be a 22% shortfall for communities, no matter even looking at everything that was out there and on the board. Next slide, please. So knowing that there's going to be a shortfall, we're probably never going to find enough funding for everything. What do we do? How do we address this funding gap? So the funding gap will likely persist without improving local capacities. And to name a few, those local capacities could be maintenance and operations, better asset management, local workforce planning so that your workers can actually do the maintenance and operations that you need to do at the level that you need them to do it, technology upgrades, and even things like preparing for extreme weather, including climate. Those are all things that can make that gap a little bit smaller so that you're not necessarily needing to take out as much debt as you think you do. Next slide. Which brings me to my soapbox, which is to talk about technical assistance. So I know we're all, this isn't a test and this is fairly informal. So I'd love to ask you to think about, when you think about technical assistance, what is it? Is it A, a professional service generally provided at no cost to communities to build capacity. B, help with grant writing or management. C, circuit riders helping to coordinate specific activities across the region. D, I don't know, it sounds like someone you call when your computer breaks. Or E, something the federal government made up. And if you are feeling brave, you can definitely enter your chosen letter into the chat or any other witty or quippy response you might be feeling in the moment. If any brave souls would like to toss something in the chat, feel free. But I won't make you wait. I won't spoil it. There is no correct answer here. It's really all of the above. It's really anything. It really can be any and anything that really helps you address an aspect of your capacity or an aspect of accessing funding that a community might need. So we at Syracuse tend to think of it generally through the lens of a professional service provided at no cost to communities to build that capacity, and particularly for the moment that we're in, to access those funds. Next slide. At the same time, there's challenges. So I like to call this the catch-22 of technical assistance. If you are in the hole, you need a lot of things at your utility or in your community, and you think you could use help. Well, getting high quality help also means exchanging a lot of information. It means investing time, and it means that you have an ongoing relationship with that group who is supporting you. But if you are a community that has a lot going on, you may not have enough time, which then creates challenges and a need for more help in sort of a self-reinforcing cycle that makes me think of Jerry Maguire, help me help you. That's to say, what's really important is for communities to look at what kind of assistance will really work for them, and how do I communicate that up front so that I don't find myself, asking for help into the ether with no one there to help me because there is too much on my plate for me to even delegate it to somebody else to do. Next slide. Okay, and that brings me to some guidance and some thoughts that I've had about how to use technical assistance. And that is to really look at what would work best for you and where you could use help in terms of how much time and how much support you think you might need on a given subject. So the best way that I know to talk about this is through food. What I'm going to do next is talk about some of the work that our center has done with partners like New Jersey Future and with partners like many of the other assistance providers who maybe you have heard of or maybe haven't. We can talk more about that after the session. And so each of these menu items will come with a case study that I'll talk you through, hopefully very quickly, as I know we are limited on time. So the first is appetizers. In this case, an appetizer is something that it takes a limited amount of time. You call us when you need us. There are things like visioning, outreach materials, meeting facilitation, but it's not something that's necessarily extremely ongoing or that you're dedicating some time to every single day. Next slide. Okay, so one example of this is a project that we did to support an informed review of technical and engineering plans. This was a project we did in collaboration with a Native Nation in New York, where they needed some extra engineering expertise and commentary to answer some questions that they had about a basis of design report as part of their right to consultation. So what we did was coordinated a technical review of that plan. We worked with our sister center at the University of New Mexico, as well as with the Council for the Nation. And that review was then used by the nation to inform their own consultation and commentary. And after that, we left it alone. Occasionally, they also call us up again if they need something else, but in general, it was a sort of one-time thing. It didn't require any ongoing commitment from the nation. Next slide. Okay, so you might be asking, what is an entree? This is something where you are tackling a very complex challenge and you're addressing community goals with maybe greater time commitment. So an example here would be project development, capital improvement, anything that you might be interacting with that TA provider on a weekly, potentially even daily basis for an extended period of time. Next slide. So an example that I'd give here is upgrading drinking water treatment for Rensselaerville, New York. This is a hamlet in upstate New York. The team was both my center as well as Moonshot Missions, which is a wonderful peer, I would call them a sort of peer engineering group that does really incredible work. The challenge was that an all-volunteer water district, they were proactively aiming to upgrade their drinking water source from surface water that had been impacted by certain contaminants to groundwater wells. And so, as you can imagine, that takes a long time. And the TA provided in this case was really every single step of the way. So we did work at the get-go developing public engagement materials. We also worked with them to select contractors. Moonshot Missions engaged with that as well. We're now navigating eligibility, and we've actually helped them successfully list their project on the annual list for New York State Revolving Loan Fund. In order to get those funds, there's still some more things that we have to do. So we are still engaging, and we expect that this could be a project that lasts up to 2 years. Next slide. Next is dessert. So this is, indulge in a little sweet treat to sweeten your experience or to build up a skill that might, again, help you close that funding gap by doing the non-financial things that'll make costs lower and will make your management experience easier at your water or wastewater utility. So these are things like staff training, maybe even professional development. Next slide. The example that I'm going to give here is a workforce development example. So here we were working with a regional commission that was quasi-governmental and quasi-regulatory, who worked with over, I think, almost 40 different municipalities over a very rural region in upstate New York. So they were really struggling with permanently losing employees, as I know many of you are. What they wanted was an easy way and a standard way to capture intricate details of company knowledge and prevent any further loss. And so what we did was we worked with that commission to develop a customizable organizational position knowledge inventory tool, which was then implemented in multiple municipalities and took, inventory of things like, where do you leave the keys? Who does what at my organization? And this information was consistently collected with the support of the commission as well as our center. And now it's on file and retained for the benefit of all of those communities. Okay, next slide. And so here's where I encourage you to tackle those challenges, take advantage of technical assistance as a way to reduce and make efficiency in your system where you can, so that the costs that you're seeing don't continue to balloon. Our team of providers has expertise across engineering, community engagement, funding and finance, and more. We serve all of EPA Region 2, and we do so through a combination of programs. We also all talk to each other. So there's no fear that you're reaching out to the wrong person. The right person probably knows us. Lee and I talk all the time. So I'm sure that we'd be able to route you to the right place. Next slide. And that's it. I will turn it back over to the organizers.
Okay, well, leave it to the last person that happens to be going over engineering and technical background of the State Revolving Fund. There's no meal representation for me to make this tasty for you, but I will say I am by far, I've been working in the industry now for over 25 years. The last 13 at Suburban Consulting Engineers, and my personal passion is to find money for our client systems. And State Revolving Fund has been the best program that I have had the privilege to work with through our New Jersey DEP and the iBank. Next. So sources of funding. I've presented on this topic many times with, bureau chiefs from the DEP. I dug through various different presentations that I was doing in the past several years, and Lee invited me on this panel to go over the behind the scenes back end State Revolving Fund processes. So my part is not necessarily going through what the intended use plan will be showing for state fiscal year 26. I'm here to just take out the myth that this is a hard program. And I'm here to show you that if you know the right things and ask the right questions to the right people, this is a smooth ride to secure your funding. Sources of funding are very reliable. This program has been around for decades. It's the New Jersey Water Bank program. It went through various different names. Right now, it's going by the New Jersey Water Bank program. You might have heard of the NJEIT in the past, or the trust or the fund, which are portions of where the funding is coming from, but it's not the New Jersey iBank program. It's not, oh, it's through the iBank. It's the New Jersey Water Bank program. It is in part of the DEP collaborating with the infrastructure bank, and the sources of funding are coming through the EPA. And since the pandemic, obviously the bipartisan infrastructure law that gave the state of New Jersey $1 billion to be used over the 5-year period. Next. So the bipartisan infrastructure law bill that came into place is known as the bill, BIL. State Revolving Fund is what has been around for decades. And the merging of the two funding sources is what the commissioner of the DP called the Water Infrastructure Investment Plan. And there was a huge marketing campaign in 2022 where the state fiscal year 23 intended use plan rolled out the principal forgiveness packages that are good for the 5-year period that we are given to spend this money. Next. So I'm using some terminologies that I need everybody on this call to understand and appreciate. The intended use plan. So the EPA requires the DEP to publish an intended use plan, and that is exactly what that is. How does the DEP intend to use how does the DEP intend to use the funding that they're receiving through the EPA? In that document, it is such a wonderful narrative, and I find that many people take it for granted. I would welcome you to go to the website, and it's also available at the DEP website as well, but it's better to just go. I have the wrong link at the bottom right now. That was a previous link. You could still find the old ones there, but right now, DEP WIP, the WIP website would have the intended use plans that are now in effect and the proposed one for next year. And if you read it cover to cover, you will have a better understanding on why principal forgiveness categories are selected, who is eligible to receive this principal forgiveness, and there are interactive links, and there's pictures, and more importantly, they also have project eligibility examples. Next. The other important thing you need to keep in mind, there's rolling applications for the State Revolving Fund. For those of us that have worked in this industry longer, we do remember those deadlines of March of every year where everything had to be sent over. There was we had to physically send the plans and the specs by the first weekend of March. It was hard, but right now we have rolling applications. However, the funding packages have a beginning of July 1st through June 30th because we operate on the state fiscal year. So right now we're in effect of state fiscal year 25. It is good through June 30th of this year, and effective July 1st of 25, we start the state fiscal year 26. Next slide. So the mission of the infrastructure bank is to provide and administer the low rate loans, interest loans. The iBank is tasked to maintain a AAA market rate. It's not something that's given to them because they are the bank of, the infrastructure bank of New Jersey. They work hard and diligently. They have credit worthiness requirements for anyone applying to the program to ensure that they maintain that AAA rating. Anyone going through the program is grandfathered that AAA credit rating on the financing portion of the projects. So if anyone on this call is more financially driven, and obviously we're talking debt is not a bad word, if you were to self-fund a project and use your own cash reserves to spend on that project, that's a no-brainer. There's no interest involved. If you are to borrow from a bank or go out to the bond market and get competitive rates, you would be subject to the interest rate that your credit rating is aligned with. Going through the iBank, at a minimum, you're looking at the AAA rate of what the iBank represents, plus the Water Bank program base funding is 50% no interest. So the effective interest rate, in essence, is the AAA market rate right now might be at a 4.2% interest. The effective rate of any loan you take out of the SRF is 2.1. So that debt is definitely worth it when you are working with a very enticing interest rate. Next. So drinking water eligible projects. For those of you that are on this call that are water system representatives, or if you're a municipality that has that owns and operates their own water system, drinking water eligible projects include rehabilitating contaminated sources, like service line replacement, funding for implementation for PFAS treatment facilities, new rehabilitation or upgrade your existing well houses, construction replacement, purchase or consolidation or restructuring of a water system that is unable to maintain compliance. Next slide. Clean water eligible projects. So municipalities that have, they own and operate their own sewer system. Even if you don't own and operate your own sewer system and it's in part of your general fund through your taxes and you don't own a sewer utility per se, if you have the stormwater MS4 permit compliance, all of that is covered through your general fund, through your taxes. All the eligible projects that can go through the Clean Water State Revolving Fund is listed here in these bullets, from well sealing to infiltration and inflow correction is cured in place lining of your sewer system infrastructure, interceptors, pump stations, force mains, sewer system rehab, new collection systems, if we are proving that we are improving water quality. So if you have health department records that are failing septics, you would be eligible to expand your sewer system and connect those dwellings to it. Landfills, brownfields, next slide. Combined sewer overflows, so CSO, solutions for malfunctioning septic systems, like I mentioned earlier. Procurement of equipment. So say you are running against the clock for the state fiscal year deadlines and it's February and your project is not advancing with the permits that you need or require. Procurement of equipment is something that could easily offset your expenditures for the year by getting the equipment that you had already in your wish list and secure low interest loans through the program as well. Green infrastructure, climate resiliency is obviously something we all have to face. And any project that you are considering to improve your treatment works and make it more resilient for the climate change would be an eligible project. Next. All right, so the state revolving fund process. We established that it's not the iBank, right? It's the Water Bank program. We established that it is a collaboration with the DEP and the Infrastructure Bank. You need to ensure that you have a DEP eligible project in order to advance through the program. So the first step is that you have to create a project. Now I'm talking about these steps. The iBank collaborating with the DEP, the iBank is the steward of the online portal for this state revolving fund program, and that is H2 loans. H2 loans is outlined in 7 steps in order for you to start the project and get securing the funding for your project. So step 1 is creating the project. Step 0 would be that you have login credentials as the authorized representative. So sending an email to support at H2 loans, or even going to h2loans.com, you will see create login or request login information. That sends an email over to the iBank IT department. and they will start to collaborate with you to have your login credentials. Once you have those, you create a project. Only those that have an email address from the local governing unit, MUA, municipality, can start a project. You have to be a representative and an employee of the applicant entity, the sponsor entity. You create the project. That takes 2 minutes. You log in, you create project, you give it a title, and that's it. Step 2, submission of project via H2 loans. Step 2 is really another 15 minutes of your time. Once you create the project, you can start adding collaborators. You know, you don't want to be bothered with these details. You have a fear of putting in the wrong information. Once you create the project, you can add your engineer, your consulting engineer. They now get access to the application, and then I would go in and submit I would go in and fill out step 2 on your behalf with you, virtually if need be. And then you would still have to submit step 2. Step 3 is submission of a letter of intent. That takes a lot more collaboration and assistance from your professionals. Your engineer can write the project report. And then step 4 is the submission of the application with the design documents and the permit applications. Step 5 is the socially economically disadvantaged participation during planning and design. Step 6 is any revisions from step 3. So we write a project report. At that step, you may or may not have completed your design. You're outlining the overall project scope. If by the end of step 4, something changes, step 6 is where we go back and we realign everything to be in sync. Step 7 is submission of the bid package, where we're getting the authorization to award. Next step. All right. Everyone that is, I've heard many comments in the past of this project. This program is impossible. It's really hard, and there are all these requirements. It's all based on the NJAC 7:22 financial assistance programs for environmental infrastructure facilities. The answer is more than likely in one of those subchapters. So that's something that you should be looking at, as we are starting to talk about step 3, submission of a letter of intent. Subchapter 10 outlines exactly what that project report should include. However, there's also additional guidelines in the WIP website that has added even more requirements for the project report. Next step. So why do we need an environmental decision? What is the outcome of step 3? Step 3 is the submission of the project report. It is a decision-making process. It forces the applicant to evaluate the alternatives, including the no action alternative. It's consistent with state planning rules. You have to confirm there's no impacts to the environment and that the design will ultimately be completed. Next step. The milestone that we receive from submitting a project report is the environmental decision document. Obviously, this is an older EDD that I keep in as a token of appreciation of Gene Trevor's years of service at the DEP. But you need to have an environmental decision document in hand. Next slide. Step 4 is the submission of the design documents. So then it goes on, it's undergoing technical review from the Bureau of Municipal Finance and Construction Element. Well, what are they looking for? That technical reviewer is not looking for specific means and methods in design application. They're really concerned that all the design documents meet the requirements of the program, and the permits and the approvals have been obtained. Next. Step 4 also needs to submit an SED utilization plan by the sponsor, where you are fulfilling the requirement of the program that 10% of the construction costs will be utilized for a minority business enterprise, women-owned business enterprise, or disabled business enterprise. We need to give 30-day advance notice to the Office of Equal Opportunity so that they could announce that this bid is going to be published shortly, so that they can be prepared to partner up with general contractors and meet that requirement. Next slide. So when you get the milestone for step 4 is the authorization to advertise. So you're issued a plan, you have to have an EDD already in hand. You have submitted your design documents, your permits are in hand. There's an engineering agreement that an engineer will be helping you through the bid and construction phase of the project, and that a satisfactory contract documents have been submitted and finalized. Next. Step 5 is to submit any SCD participation that you had during planning and design. It is an information that the program wants to have. It does not prevent you from getting your authorization to advertise if you don't have any participation during planning and design, but it is a very important step in the process. Next. And the milestone approvals is really, you go through the project eligibility, you make sure the project is eligible and the scope is eligible, you obtain an environmental decision, you get your authorization to advertise if you are procuring, an authorization to award, you also need an authorization to procure if you're procuring. Authorization to award is the DEP milestone that you are now locking in your approvals. Then you have to really now lock in the financing terms with a loan. You can do a short-term loan, then you engage your bond counsel attorneys to now have a construction loan since the authorization to award was already received. And then during the long-term loan award or permanent financing is when you see the debt relief of the principal forgiveness. And there's also a 1-year anniversary certification that's required to make sure everything is still functioning as anticipated. Next. SRF program requirements, it's federal law. We have Davis-Bacon, American Iron and Steel, Build America, Buy America, Iran disclosures, Belarus, equal opportunity requirements, as we mentioned. Next, American Iron and Steel. Local public contracts law, if you're a municipal entity. New Jersey prevailing wage rates are requirements. Environmental justice law are required. Next. Mandatory contract language, as I showed you earlier, the NJAC 7:22 is the Bible of this program. It's in the process of being revised, but it's been there for years, and this is what we have to follow. Next. There's a reason why there's engineering oversight during construction. It's part of the NJAC requirements. It's to follow through the bid and award process, construction monitoring, inspection. We could also assist you with the requisition process and the performance certification as well. Next. Again, I just wanted to make sure that everybody revisits the NJAC 7:22 for questions or concerns. Next. The SRF project timeline does not have to be forever. It could be anywhere from 1 to 5 years. It could be anywhere from 1 to 3 years. It depends on the scope of your project. However, if you are proceeding through this program, you can definitely anticipate no additional delays than any other typical project. Next. Financing timeline, you could easily so we start with step 1 and step 2, like I mentioned. You should be requesting a planning and design loan if you want to lock in the financial terms right out of the gate, and you need the financial assistance to pay for your soft costs. However, the clock starts ticking as soon as you have a short-term loan in place. If you can self-fund your soft costs until you are ready to go out to bid, then that buys you a little bit more time. Right now, the program allows for up to 5 years as effective state fiscal year 26. As of state fiscal year 25, we had a 3-year period to complete the project. So that also emphasizes that these projects should not take you too long to get through the program. Once you get an authorization to award, I would definitely urge you to get a loan in place. Otherwise, you lose the funding for the state fiscal year. You need to have authorization to award, and you need to have a short-term loan in place in order to lock in principal forgiveness packages. The construction period, permanent financing, is when you see the relief of the principal forgiveness. During the short-term loan, you have to proceed with the full amount of the project. It's when it's permanently financed and you see the relief from the principal. Next slide. Lee, how am I doing on time? Because I can't see any comments that are coming in for me.
You are doing great. We are at 12:47, so if you want to go and take it to 12:50, that'd be perfect.
Thank you. All right, thank you. So the financing timeline for procurement of equipment is just the same as an authorization to advertise. You need to get an authorization to procure through the department. It's not retroactively coming in and saying, I purchased the vacuum truck, can I get it paid through the program? You need to get the necessary approvals to procure. You really need to show good faith efforts that Office of Equal Opportunity is satisfied with the SCD compliance portion of that, even though it's a direct cost and it's a procurement effort. You need to show that equal opportunity and unrestricted base of vendors was given the chance to give you a price. You need to have the authorization to award for all contracts in order for you to be able to enter into a construction contract with the iBank. And permanent financing is when you see all the relief from the principal forgiveness. Next. Meeting request. I definitely urge everybody, as soon as you start the project and you into step 2 and you submit the project information with your engineer or on your own, you don't need too much technical information to submit step 2, but you may need some guidance from your engineering professional to do it right the first go around. Once step 2 is submitted, the DEP ranks your project and it's assigned reviewers. So at that point, you can go under project management and request a pre-planning meeting. Before you spend a lot of money, the iBank IT department receiving that request from H2 Loans will now coordinate a meeting with all the DEP representatives assigned to your project, including their supervisors and everyone necessary from the iBank. And you have a conversation. You say, this is the scope that we want to take on through the state revolving fund. Is it eligible? The DEP will respond if it is or if it isn't. And then, am I credit worthy? And then the iBank gives you the information that you need to address to make sure you have a project that's viable. I would definitely urge you to do that right out of the gate so that you're not assuming things incorrectly and then you're heading closer to advertisement and you're facing different obstacles. It keeps everyone informed and it's just the best way to go. Next slide. You need to have your project listed in the, this is my dashboard of years ago, and you need to see your project number identified. That's when you know that the DEP has ranked your project. PID means it was not ranked and something is missing from your application. Next slide. This is the basic information that you need to put in and really advance the project for step 2. So it's really not much that you have to think about other than just simply stating the scope. Next slide, I'm almost done, Lee. Once it's on the project priority list, you're ready to go. The project has a pulse. You can then request a planning and design loan if you need the money up front for your soft costs. Next. And that's it. Awesome. So since I had that as my last slide, the project priority list is very important. You need to have your project listed in that project priority list to be in a position to borrow through the program. So we are reaching now the end of the 3rd quarter for state fiscal year 25. The update to the project priority list happens quarterly, which will probably be April, first 2 weeks of April. So essentially, any applications you start moving forward will not show on the project priority list until the next update of July. So it doesn't mean anything against your project. It just, you cannot go into financial terms with a short-term loan for planning and design if your project is not listed on that PPL. So that's all I have. Any questions?
Excellent. Let's see. Are we still on Spotlight? All right. So I'm sure folks can at least hear me. So first of all, thank you all to our amazing panelists, our expert panelists for joining us today and giving us amazing presentations. As everyone saw here, we got 3 amazing perspectives on technical assistance and how debt can be utilized for the betterment of infrastructure. Now, for folks who can't come late, just as a reminder, we are recording this webinar. So just for folks that came late that missed the house rules, we are recording this webinar. If you have any questions, feel free to put them into the chat. Now we have about 8 minutes left in this, and we're going to have a little bit of a discussion for folks that may be interested in some relevant things that are happening right now in New Jersey that's also connected to the SRF and everything we spoke to with technical assistance as well. So I bring this question to all the panelists. We'll go into it for a bit, and then we'll conclude with my ask afterwards. So a big thing that a lot of municipalities are dealing with and having to face is the lead line and galvanized steel replacements put into practice by Governor Murphy under his executive order. So all lead line services and galvanized pipes have to be replaced by 2031. So a lot of municipalities have to do this. So my question to y'all is twofold. One, can what we discussed today be utilized by municipalities, municipal officials, and decision makers to help replace, inventory, and even map where these pipes are in order to help their constituents? And two, are there any personal stories that y'all have experienced helping other municipalities throughout New Jersey or even throughout the region that may be helpful for folks listening in now? Because I took a look at the list and we have a mixture of government officials, municipal representatives, and elected officials. So I throw that to the panel. Whoever wants to go first.
I'd be curious if Tess has any projects that you helped out since you're out in Syracuse. And then I'll go ahead and answer.
Yeah, so we are looking at lead in the state of New York, of course. And so a couple projects that my team has been involved with. One of the ways that we thought we could help early on was with the inventories. We saw a lot of communities that needed help with those, and we provided that support. We're also seeing communities that are, like very intimidated by this. The costs are astronomical. It's really needed to phase those projects. So having somebody help you develop a project that's phased in ways that you bite off enough at a time that you can help make that process a little more easy with your debt. Also looking at excavation strategies to build efficiencies as much as you can into your plan. That's where getting a second opinion from a technical assistance provider can be really useful. A lot of folks have great consultants that are working on this already, but using the additional support that's been made available through the US EPA as well as through the states can get an extra boost. So that would be my 2 cents on this, and I'll pause to let others jump in, and then I'll add any other closing thoughts if I can think of anything.
Can I share my screen for a minute, Lee?
Go for it.
I owe to correct myself of using an older website link. I just wanted to show I'm going to Google, right? Type in NJDP web because nobody has time to copy and paste the long TTP. New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. This is the WIP website that I was talking to you about. To answer your question, Lee, and I also saw another question in the queue from Joe Sesto. Under this WIP website, this link shows you, am I sharing my screen? Can you see it?
Yes.
Are you seeing the WIP website? Am I sharing the right screen?
It's the WIP website from what I see.
Perfect. This is the intended use plan and project priority list. But under guidance and forms, if you click on that, you will see everything the DEP has available to you as far as what is necessary in the project planning report for step 3, plans and specification guidance. These links and resources are invaluable, and I find them very useful. Affordability criteria is very much the buzzword, Lee, if what you're eligible for to get, even for lead service line replacements. So if you go to the affordability criteria proposed, what is there for effective state fiscal year 26, you can type in here your municipality and see what tier funding you are eligible for. Now, going back to the website and going to the intended use plans and looking at what we have in effect right now for state fiscal year 25. Page 5 of the PDF automatically takes you to the funding packages. For lead service line replacements, anyone meeting the affordability criteria is eligible to receive $10 to $16 million in total in principal forgiveness, which is 50 to 80% of the total project cost. So if you're a tier 1 affordability and you have $1 million, let's say, because I want to keep the math simple, of lead service lines that you need to replace, $800,000 of that $1 million will be forgiven. If you are a tier 2 affordability criteria, then $500,000 of that debt will be forgiven out of that $1 million project. There's $111 million available in that category. I'm helping you understand how to read the intended use plan and what the rat race is for. Rat race number 1 is June 30th of the state fiscal year to capture the money available in that funding package. Rat race number 2 is how much is in that category funding available for the year and who you are competing with, right? So for lead service lines, there's $111 million, Lee. There's plenty of money in there for anyone meeting that affordability criteria. If you don't meet affordability, and on the state fiscal year 26 definition of affordability, the score has increased to 86.19 because they adjusted the affordability calculations with 2022 Census Bureau. If you don't meet the affordability and you're like, I can't get principal forgiveness, anything you borrow through the program will be 80% at no interest. So even though principal forgiveness is what we all desire to get for our projects, 80% at no interest, and anything underground your engineer certifies as a useful life of 30 years, that's a 30-year amortization schedule on a $10 million project, where $8 million of that, you're not tacking any interest at all. So talking about smart debt, that is something that you're literally borrowing the money dollar for dollar from the DEP without having to pay back interest. Principal forgiveness, to answer Joe's question, you can start a single application. Let me stop sharing at this point. You can start a single loan application through the program and take advantage of principal forgiveness for consecutive state fiscal years, provided that your construction contracts are separated and awarded by state fiscal year. If you have, let me use a simple example. We have 3 different well locations that we want to remove PFAS for. I am going to start a loan application for, Sunnyside water system PFAS removal. And I will then start the loan application. In my project report, I'm going to list all 3 well locations. And I intend to take these on in 3 separate construction contracts. The first construction contract receives its authorization to award. You lock in the financing with a short-term loan for the entire loan application, but you are certifying that first construction contract for state fiscal year 25. Then you go through the second well location as another construction contract, and that secures, and that's after July 1st, you lock in state fiscal year 26 funding under the same loan application with a second construction contract. The name of the game is that these contracts needs to be self-operable. You can't just build a foundation on a treatment plant and assume that that authorization to award locks in principal forgiveness, because the concrete slab does nothing for you in terms of treatment. You need to have a full structure in place. Sorry, I carried on with that. I'm happy to stay on longer if people have time for more questions.
No, it's perfectly fine. So unfortunately, we do have to call time because we have reached the end of the webinar. But this is a great conversation, and which is why this is one webinar of 3 in a series, and we're going to continue this. So I have 2 asks for everyone as we finish out, right? The first one is, if you have any need for technical assistance or engineering or any further purpose, these are the people you want to talk to, all right? These are the organizations and firms that are doing this work now. So get their contact information or get our contact information. We can connect y'all there. My second ask, the second webinar will be coming up mid-year. We will be releasing that information fairly soon. Everyone that's joined this webinar will be getting an invite to attend our second one. It will be a part of the same series, debt is not a bad word, but we'll be focusing on another perspective of why debt is not a bad word for municipalities and organizations to know. And third, I know I said only 2, but 3, If you do have any further questions that did not come up during this webinar, please feel free to contact us at the New Jersey Funding Navigator, and we can either connect you to the appropriate person or we can answer them ourselves. But we want to keep the discussion going forward and moving on because this is a serious issue going on and we have many resources in the state of New Jersey to tackle them. So again, my name is Lee Clark, the program manager of New Jersey Futures Funding Navigator program, and I'm so happy to host this panel, and thank you to all the expert panelists that joined us today. So with that, have a great day, and we're signing off. Take care.